those who rigged it. As I see it, class warfare, the only resort to right-wing doom, it's worth it. How to talk to your right-wing relatives, friends, and neighbors, and other books written by Berto Willis.
So why do you think there's such a disconnect there to where he can make these promises and people believe him? He doesn't follow through.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto Willis, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas. Good morning to the United States of America. Good morning to the entire world receiving our signals via the magic of El Internet, formerly known as ARPANET, created by who? We the people. We the people. We have to keep remembering we the people. We the people. You know, over the last several days, I've been doing a whole lot of stuff outside of the studio and meeting people in the flesh and reminding folks that it is all about we the people as we move on forward in this next election cycle. I should say these next two election cycles, because folks, it is real. But without further ado, let's throw this signal to the LS studio where our resident geniuses reside, El Senor Jacques Van Weber and Mayana. Good morning, folks.
Hey, how you doing? How's everybody out there?
Everybody.
Hey, Jack.
Good morning, Miana. Good morning, Egberto. How are you?
I am doing fine, my brother. Talk to me.
All right, I'm just going to read your headlines. I'm kind of got some writer's fatigue. So, okay. America stands at the crossroads of moral clarity. Class struggle and decency collide. From Maine's populist uprising led by Graham Plattner's working class campaign to the shocking racism within the young Republicans. The political divide exposes a nation wrestling with its soul. Meanwhile, a conservative mother's plea for her disabled son's Medicaid survival reminds us that compassion is not partisan, it's human. This episode dives into the heart of what kind of country we want to be. One driven by solidarity and justice, or one consumed by cruelty and greed. Man, that's pretty heavy.
Yeah, I mean, it's a heavy topic, and we have a whole lot to discuss that I shouldn't say should shock people, but just kind of put things into perspective, and that's what we're going to talk about. But anyway, before we get
The
started,
young Republicans.
the young Republicans. That's an interesting
I said
story.
that's what you. I said that's what you're going to talk about. You said that's what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about the young Republicans too. That's part of the subject, and these guys like to deny a lot of who they really are. But I mean, you just look internally, and you can see who they are. I don't know if anybody saw Ramaswamy, who's running for, I think is Ohio governor of Ohio, went into Turning Point USA, and what young people had to tell him. It was quite amazing. But we'll get to it. Anyway, anything else, Mayana?
No, I'm looking forward to it and just hearing what's going on.
All right. Anyway, folks, first of all, let me just say, yesterday I had a great day. And why did I have a great day? Because I always talk about, I told folks to win. There are several things that really need to be done. I think I put that. In fact, let me go ahead and pull up that. I didn't have it ready. I need to pull up my Sunday newsletter, because one of the things that I preach a lot is the kind of engagement that we really need to do to win. So as I hunt and as I search for that newsletter, which I just found, I want to point out something that I said. All is not lost. We have identified the problem and what they are trying to accomplish. They expect us to be undisciplined and cower in fear. We must not. The solution is to remember the early days of the muckrakers and execute it in steroids or on steroids. And the answer is relatively simple. It involves email, text, and face-to-face communication. In the process, it is more personal and reminds us of our shared humanity. That is what we have to do for the good side, whatever that'll be, to win. And I point out that everybody Absolutely everybody with a media that no longer works. And I repeat, with a media that no longer works, there are four things that actually five things that I say we should go out there and do. One, keep a list of emails of everyone you know. Make sure that you know how to email them at once. As an individual, you can do that. You have what's called a sphere of influence, people that listen to you, people that know you, or people that you listen to. Keep their emails, keep their mobile numbers, that you can actually partake particular types of information when necessary. Also, keep a list of the phone numbers of everyone you know for critical events and happenings that require quick response. Be prepared to text them in addition to emailing them. Number 3, remember to be friendly with everyone, irrespective of what you think about their ideology. Always be ready to civilly discuss any topic, especially one that you discern affects them or their families. And if you notice, the thing that is affecting a lot of families right now, or what they're finding out as they get those letters with their new insurance payments, etc., that gives you the opportunity to address them. And subscribe to sources of information you trust that deliver their content to you by how? Email, which always be ready to civilly, or rather, which you can share when applicable to your own list. What am I saying? Like, subscribe to newsletters. Make sure that the ones that you actually have faith that the people that are doing or behind it are honest. Because, like I said, the mainstream media, there's so much that's not being reported, or so much that's being misreported. And fifth but not least, encourage those you know to implement those 4 steps. Well, I should say 5 steps, because they should also encourage those other to implement these steps. The paradigm has changed. There was a time when we had 3 respected networks with people who did journalism that mostly worked. And then we got this new type of right-wing split media where where misinformation was just one of the tools of the misinformers, if you will. And that requires more work out of all of us. First, we could just sit back and information would flow to us, and for the most part, it was fairly accurate. Now, you have to go out there and search for real information that matters. Real information that affects you, real information that affects the country. As a good example, when you don't have real information, you get a president that feels it okay to go blow boats up in the middle of the ocean and tell you it's because those boats had drugs in it or whatever, but you don't know that. There's no independent way of finding that out. And what does that do to you? If we didn't know about a lot of this happening, what does that do to you? Well, it means it puts us in danger now. Why? We like to travel, right? Every day you have a ship or so leaving the ports of Galveston, the ports of New Orleans, the ports of Miami, etc. Civilian ships with thousands of people on board. What happens when somebody else retaliates on one of our innocent vessels and use our performance off the coast in international waters of Venezuela as the moral example that allows them to do that, and that they make a claim, well, we know somebody in that boat that is doing XYZ. We all have to start thinking about something called blowback. Blowback is when you do something that is pretty wrong violently against somebody else, and they respond. And we may think, this is a strong guy going out there and blowing stuff up. but then people reciprocate. You don't see a lot of attacks on China, do you? And I like to use China because China is the other superpower that, if not already lapped us, is about to, based on what they're doing, based on their economy, based on quite a bit. And one of the things that they've learned from us is the best way to get bees is with honey. And they're not blowing stuff up around the world. We are. And we may eventually pay the price in the not too distant future. All right. Anyhow, the first story I want to talk about has to do with the Democratic Party. As you know, in Maine, there's this working class. Well, I don't know if I think he'll be considered a working class. He owns this, I think, oyster farm. And he decided to throw himself into the race to go against Maine's Susan Collins, who has been voting lockstep with Donald Trump, which means she has been voting to get rid of people's health care and etc., like any other Republican mimicking Donald Trump. Well, this guy comes out. He's a progressive guy. He has the attention of a lot of people in Maine, and that good old boy Chuck Schumer decides, well, you know what? Even as this guy is waking up not only the party, but waking up MAGA, waking up a lot of folks, he wants Governor Mills, the current governor of Maine, to run instead. Another boring type race that doesn't show anyone that we're looking for change. So here's the story. After weeks of speculation and reports that Democratic Senator lead Chuck Schumer was privately calling on Maine Governor Janet Mills to enter the race to unseat longtime Republican lawmaker Susan Collins, despite considerable energy surrounding the candidacy of progressive veterans and oyster farmer Graham Plattner, Mills announced her primary run on Tuesday. Mills highlighted her public sparring with President Donald Trump early this year and positioned her run as one would focus on standing up to bullies like Trump, who threatened to cut off Maine's federal funding if it allowed transgender youth to play on team sports that correspond with their identities. She also pledged to fight back against efforts by Trump and Republicans in Congress, including Collins, who has represented Maine since 1997, to slash health care for millions of Americans while handing out tax cuts to corporations and the richest Americans. This election is going to be a simple choice. Is Maine going to bow down or stand up? Mills said. But before Mainers decide whether to stick with Collins or unseat her in favor of a Democratic senator, they are set to choose the Democratic nominee next June. And despite being a political novice, Plattner has generated excitement across the state since announcing his candidacy. Plattner has centered his campaign on naming the enemy shared by Mainers and Americans from all walks of life, not immigrants, transgender people, or other frequent targets of the Trump administration, but the oligarchy. He's also been unapologetically outspoken in his condemnation of U.S.-backed Israeli assault on Gaza. Oh, so maybe that's why Schumer is not really on board. And over the weekend said that should he win a Senate seat, there will be consequences for those who have led federal immigration agents' violent incursion into U.S. cities. Now, here you have a guy that is showing a whole lot of support. The people in Maine are showing a lot of support for. He's exciting not just the base, but he's exciting a lot of people. I want to give you some quick numbers here. He has a 21 points advantage over Mills with Trump voters. And remember, she's the current governor of Maine. But he's leading her by 21 points, Trump voters, by 16 points in independent voters, by 14 points among conservatives, by 13 points among gun households, by 13 points among those aged 18 through 44, by 13 points among Republicans, and by 10 points in deeply rural Northwest Maine. Now, you've got a running start, and Chuck Schumer instead goes ahead and pick the person who is losing to the guy that's running and building momentum for a status quo candidate. A lot of people ask, what's wrong with the Democratic Party? I went to a panel last night, and this panel, I was a speaker, and they asked, what is, how do we get to the candidates, or what's wrong with the Democratic Party, or how does one win? And my answer was pretty simple. You go around anybody, anyone, anything that's blocking the thing that people want the most. In effect, if any party is stopping you from or stopping the progress, it is imperative that you go around them, disregard them, and do what is right. And that's that's part of what we discussed on that panel last night. And that is people first. Remember always, people first, humanity first. Do what needs to be done to get the person that's going to make the change elected. And that is where much of the neoliberal leadership of the Democratic Party is failing. And the thing to do is to simply go around and work with what you know needs to be done. And that's what I think a whole lot of folks are starting to realize. The telephone number, folks, is 713-526-5738. Can call at any time and change the subject, 713-526-5738. This guy, Plattner, in looking at him and looking at others around the country that really seem to want to make a difference, you have to sit down and wonder if the leadership, notice what I'm saying, if the leadership of the Democratic Party really have the interest of working people at hand, when every single time a vote has come up that really changes the momentum, they haven't been there many a times. We take a look at back in the Obama days when we tried to get the public option for the Affordable Care Act. The insurance company said, we don't want it. We'll get out of your coalition if you do it. And they succumbed to it. When Lieberman said, we're not going to do it. We have to go around these people and go directly to the people. The rank and file. That's what has to be done. Welcome aboard, Richard Hanna, Barbara Fetante, Marge KJ, LVW La Profesora, Janet, Jane V in North Carolina, Dale Evans, Stephen Rosenweig, Ruth Gingras Anderson, Sandra D, Gayla Kunis. How you doing, Gayla? Mary V says it's an old boy club. An old boy club that must be decimated, my friend. Glenn Ryan, welcome aboard. Glenn says, come on, Egberta, you already know the answer. Stop voting for them. It's more complicated, Glenn, and we've spoken about that before now. Come on. Mary V says DNC is so lost. I can't argue with that. Johnny Davis is in from Minneapolis, Minnesota. And in our other chat, we have to welcome Harry Denson from Missouri City. Welcome, Harry. And Chipper99. Oh, no, that looks like a spammer. Anyway, let's bring Johnny in. Come on in, Johnny.
Here's my question. What should those people have done in Arizona or New Mexico, the people that were Bernie guys, when they were given the vote to control the so-called centrists? They took that bank account and took that money away. How can they legally address that if you're saying that the Democratic Party is like a private club and they get to do these things, even though it's undemocratic. What do we do about that?
And the thing about it, right, is a lot of these state-run and local Democratic parties are just shell of organizations, really, and they don't even spend their money on the real grassroots things that need to be spent on. Like I told the group last night, you go around them. There's so many very well organized groups right here in Houston that have more flesh and blood contact with the people than the party proper. So if the party doesn't respond, you go around the party. And many a times when you go around the party then has to come around in the final days. Now, I tell you what is shocking to me when we look at Mamdani in New York, that Schumer and Jeffries haven't come around like the governor has had to, and the leader of the entire Republican Party has, in the form of endorsing the guy who's going to be mayor of the largest city in this country. I think it's shameful, and I think, for all practical purposes, I think when they take over the House and the Senate, and I think with a guy like Plattner out of Maine, I think that's going to be a pickup if Plattner wins. I think there will be other pickups as well. Specifically, I think Sherrod Brown can win in Ohio, which will be another pickup. I also think, I can't recall the four that I actually had on my list as potential pickups, but I think when that occurs, neither Schumer, and this is going to be controversial because they're already grooming him for the position, but Hakeem Jeffries, if Hakeem cannot get from under the guises of AIPAC, I don't think he should be the leader of the party either in the House and become Speaker of the House. Go ahead, Johnny.
It just occurred to me, listening to you, how about this? Is there a way people who donate money to the Democratic Party with the intention of supporting people like Bernie or other progressives, when they find out that the centrist leaders do that to the bank accounts, to take that money away from people like the Bernie supporters who have won support, can they take that money? Can they legally say, hey, I want to cancel my donation, I want a refund? Can they do that?
No, I don't think that's official. I'm pretty sure what they did in Arizona with freezing the bank account and all of that, they had to have some legal way of doing it. I don't know what it was, but I know what happened there was Bernie took over two parties in the Southwest, and it created, well, I know of one specifically. I wasn't sure about, I think you said New Mexico as well. I wasn't sure about...
I always forget if it's New Mexico or Arizona. It's one of those two states where
it's one of them. I think it was Arizona. If I recall correctly, they took over the party in Arizona. And the thing about it is, like I said always, right? Again, you simply have to go around these people. It's people power. One of the things that that I was stressing with the group last night is a lot of people were saying, well, if we have an election, and I'm like, we have to stop speaking that way. It's not about if we have an election, because you're giving power to the others if you speak that way. It's about when the election has occurred and the people that we want to win. It's not about if, etc. But yeah, look, one of the other things I told him sort of cascade off of what you just said, and that is you are the ones providing dollars to these different groups. Channel your dollars to the people that are upholding your values, not because something says democratic mean it warrants your support. Put your dollars with people who are working towards the things that you want to see, and not where you think or they make you believe you have to. Okay, Jenny, anything else before I go to Bruce?
I only give money to progressive candidates or candidates I believe to be progressive. But if I find out otherwise, I let them know and I cancel support for them, financial. But here's another idea talking to you just now. How about when we make a donation, can we legally make it conditional?
No, I don't know what the legalities are behind that. So if I said that, I would be lying. But it's something that I could look up. I mean, I don't know I don't know if when you give to, let's say, act blue for a particular candidate, if you can put some specifics onto it. I am not sure. I would have to look that up.
Okay, just thought I'd put that out there. Maybe other people in the audience will think about this over the next coming days and weeks, and they might know someone who has some legal advice for us.
Thank you, my brother. Have a good one. All right, folks.
Have a good day.
Yeah, great. The number is 713-526-5738. Again, una vez más, 713-526-5738. 713-526-5738. Let's go to Brother Bruce. Come on in, Bruce. Bruce will be with us shortly. Oh. You're on, Bruce.
Hello.
You're on.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Can you hear me? Yeah, I've got 2 points to make. Well, first, thank you, and Jack and Mariana and Howard. You're making me smarter. I walked in a convenience store yesterday, and there was a conversation going on. A guy was bemoaning Charlie Kirk. So I told him, I said, yeah, that was horrible. And what happened to that politician and her husband being slaughtered at their front door was horrible. I said, what was their name? And he shrugged his shoulders and goes, I don't know. I said, yeah, you don't know because the flags weren't lowered at half-mast, and Vance didn't give a long rambling tribute on that one. The second point I want to make is last night I did what I usually do. I got my folding chair and sat in the backyard to take in the night sky and look at the backyard. And it's a black folding chair, and my neighbor's cat that visits me is black. So I'm looking off to the right, and I see something black in my peripheral vision, and I say, hey, kitty, kitty, and I turn my head, and I'm saying, hey, kitty, kitty, to my chair arm. Basically, what the Republicans are doing is they see a nonviolent, pro-American, anti-dictator rally, and there's something to see, but they're telling their followers that that's anti-American. I apologize for the crappy metaphor, but you know how I am. I'm done.
Thank you very much, Bruce. And let me just say, and thank you for bringing up October 18th, the No Kings rally. Folks, they are trying to malign the rally. Let me just tell you that all the organizers of this rally are stressing peaceful protest. They're stressing civility. They're stressing non-engagement with anyone that might come about to try to get you to engage. Let me tell you, you're great if you believe that things aren't going the way they should and that you want the path to change. This October 18th, no matter where you are, you don't have to go to one of those big rallies. If you have 2 or 3 people in your neighborhood, stand at a corner, let other people know that you're engaged. That encourages other people who would like to do it but feel alone to come and join you. I can tell you that about 4 weeks ago, we had a rally out here, and we were out there with our signs, etc. And I just saw a girl walk across the street from Starbucks, and she asked, hey, are there any signs? And they pointed her to where a whole lot of signs were made. And I kind of watched it, and I went up to her for a quick interview because I kind of wanted to know who she was. She wasn't there originally. And she said, well, I went to Starbucks to get my coffee, and then I saw these folks out here, and I read some of the signs, and I said, oh, I need to be there. So, I mean, it's amazing what 1 or 2 people can actually start. And we did that back in the days of Occupy right here in Kingwood. We started out with just a few of us, and people just started joining. We never got to the 700 that Cindy Hendrickson got with the first No Kings rally, but we constantly build up people. Engagement is everything, and that's what politicians fear the most. That's why the Republicans are going into hyperventilation mode right now, because they're getting a smell that this thing is going to be huge. But the thing about it, folks, it's not going to be on TV. It's not going to get the coverage it deserves on TV. But we are going to be covering it. Independent media will be all over the country. Jimmy, come on in. Line number 3.
Good morning, Egberto. I've got three good reasons to vote against Governor Greg Abbott. He's doing several really bad things. One thing, he approved of sending the Texas National Guard to Chicago at Trump's bequest. That's a crazy thing. He needs to get those Texas National Guard back to Texas where they belong. Secondly, he turned down expanding the
Medicaid expansion.
Which would have been a good thing to help with the medical care for the lower income people. And thirdly, he signed a bill denying Texas women the right to have an abortion. So he's anti-women, and he and Dan Patrick run the Republican Party in Texas. I currently go to the West Houston Democrats. They have meetings every month at the Lucky Village restaurant, and they bring in candidates to tell us what they stand for, and we can ask them questions. I was president of that organization for 4 years, but now I attend meetings on a regular monthly basis. And I also sent a letter to the Chronicle 2 days ago about all of these things that Greg Abbott has done that are wrong. They're not good governance. So the Texas voters need to vote them out, both Greg Abbott and Dan Patrick. Vote them out.
Thank you very much for that, Jimmy. I don't think there's anybody listening to you right now with a conscience that would disagree with what you have to say. Keep on doing the good work. And look, Jimmy is my 90-something-year-old friend that still is engaged in politics, making things better for us all. Anyway, folks, telephone number 713-526-5738. LBW says, I am calling Schumer today and Jeffries and everyone else I can get a hold of. Such a mess. Plattner is the guy. Yes, he is. And Mills needs to sit down somewhere. Yeah. You know, she did her part with the president when she challenged him at the White House. But leave the door open for others that are ready to move on. Absolutely right. John A. Davis, welcome aboard. Andrea McMahon, Stacy Voom, and Christy McCarthy Divine. John Davis says Ken Martin, the head of the DNC, endorsed Mandani. Finally, get it done. And I was wondering when that was going to happen. Stephen Rosenwig says Hot Wheels spinning out of control. Not sure what that means. Maybe there's something that you never know, and then you guys use a phrase, and I'm like, oops, what's going on? Anyway, so folks, telephone number 713-526-5738. The other subject that I have to cover today, I started covering it on the 3 o'clock show yesterday. But it builds on that story about what people, the people that generally lack empathy until something happens to them directly. And there's this article that came out. It's not a new article. It's probably a month and change old, if not maybe 2 months old. And it came out in the New York Times. And I was made aware of it through one of my TikTok channels, a news channel. And when I saw the story, I'm like, God, I missed this one, but this one is more important than people think. This is labeled, the title of the article in the New York Times is, I am a conservative. My disabled son needs Medicaid to live. And I want to read the first extract of that story. And it says, I'm a registered Republican who just watched her party spend much of the summer pushing through new cuts to Medicaid. I'm also here to tell you why I am an unlikely supporter of the program. Okay, let's stop. I'm here to tell you why I am an unlikely supporter. Again, the strings that are holding these people back, sometimes you wonder. It's not unlikely, it's for surely. My son's life depends on government assistance. Wow. A conservative that comes out and admits that somebody in her life, including herself, is dependent on government assistance. For her, it's an okay thing, right? But if it's government assistance for those other people, oh, they're living on the dole, right? But for her, it's okay. Recent cuts to Medicaid at both the federal and state levels mean millions of families like mine could soon be at a loss for how to care for our disabled loved ones. I know. In February 2021, during a routine ultrasound appointment when I was 17 weeks pregnant, and she tells a story about when when they did the ultrasound of her kid, that the kid turned out to have the brain wasn't developing correctly. He had a cleft where allowed some of the brain tissue to protrude through the cleft. All that stuff she talks about. And her son wasn't expected to live. It's 4 years now, and her son is still alive, and only alive because of the services provided by who again? We the people, via the taxes we pay to give this woman health care, Medicaid, for her kid. Now, she complains that she also, I'm not reading this now, I'm going to just go ahead and tell the story because it's long-winded. But she continues and she complains that in order for her to live, she don't only get money for her kids' medical care, but Medicaid pays her a salary to take care of her own kid. We want, by the way, I support that. I support that woman getting a check from We the People because of something, no fault of hers, that has happened in her life to give her a kid that needs all this assistance. That is what society is all about. So I support her getting that check. I also support us taking care of her kid because no one human being can take care of something so drastic that has happened to another human being, giving them that illness. So I'm glad that we have a society that provides that to her. But she's of the ilk. We're giving these kinds of services, except when it's for her, is frowned upon. And she looked at others as, again, the title of her item says it all. I am a conservative and I want my son to keep his Medicaid. That can easily be translated. I don't believe in giveaways for others, but I am sufficiently hypocritical and selfish to want it for my own. Could be the rebranded title. So that's what she wants. And look, I want what she wants for her kid. I want that she's also taken care of as she has to take care of her sick kid. But the policies for the Führer that she elected doesn't anymore support that. And now she has the impetus to write a New York Times article, and the New York Times prints it. Why don't the New York Times print all the other long-suffering emails from many other people that are harmed by our, capital gains laws that cause us, the regular taxpayer, to have to pay more? But again, it is to show all of you that are listening out there that when it comes to the basic needs of humanity, the basic needs that we are looking for, everybody supports it. Everybody supports it, even as these people will be suckered into voting against their own interests. So that leaves the door. As I spoke to that group last night, I made mention of this article, and I pointed to them that is the open door to have to MAGA talk. That is the open door to get to the hearts of many other people. Because that woman right now, if I had access to her, I am pretty sure that is the virus that can carry the payload into bringing out her humanity. Remember, I always talk about the way we get to people is finding that payload. There are some people that are immutable. They act like you cannot change them. But you need a payload. You know, a lot of viruses, a lot of diseases can't be reached directly by the poison or the antidote to or the materials needed to kill that poison. But if you can put that poison or that protein or whatever that is on a virus that can actually reach that cell, many times you can actually get that virus to penetrate, and then with a payload, and then the payload take care of doing the necessary eradication. And that is how we reach all these other people. You find the payload. Let's go to Pamela. Pamela, line 1, come on in.
Good morning, Alberto.
Good morning, sister. How you doing?
I haven't forgot about you. I'm going to wait until the fund drive. Does it start Sunday?
Yes, I don't recall which day it starts, but you'll hear it from me as it's going. But thank you, sis.
Okay. First thing I want to talk about, I heard somebody say, the biggest heist in American history, school vouchers.
True.
Mike
Yes.
Miles was fired from Colorado. He sent millions of dollars to Colorado out of our tax money. I'm
Yes, he
just
did.
running out with gas, so I'm kind of out of breath.
Yeah, no,
Anyway.
that's okay.
And the billionaires, and in the 70s, there were 15. We now have 800 of them. They want to rule over us. Anybody thinks that this is the party of Reagan? Well, he's the one that started all of the making us all poor. Our conservative party, this is the party. The Republican Party is the party for the rich. I hope people get it that are poor, working class.
Well, you know, with what we do here and with people like you speaking up, Pamela, believe it or not, it penetrates. I talk about the payload. You are one of the viruses that will carry that payload. Just your voice alone, you get people who are in congruence with you, and I guarantee you, your voice makes a difference. And that's what I stressed on my on my meeting last night.
Want to say.
Yes.
Stephen Miller wants to reduce our population to 1 million people.
Yeah.
Eugenics. This guy is bananas.
Yeah. This guy isn't to be taken. Well, he is to be taken seriously, but his thought process isn't a serious thought process at all. But thank you so kindly for calling in, Pamela. Anything else you want to say before I jump to Spike?
No, that's it. Have a good day.
Thank you so kindly for calling in, Pamela. Let's go to Spike. Come on in, Spike.
Hey, how you doing, man?
I am doing good, my brother. Talk to me.
Okay. Hey, you know,
I know you got an echo. Kind of disregard it. I'm sorry about that till we fix it, sir.
yeah, that's cool. I mean, it's fine. I'm cool. Hakeem Jeffries and Schumer. You know, they when they come on TV around the camera, you know, they talk real good to the people that they talking to. But myself, I wonder what they saying when they not around when the cameras are not on them, because the actions they take when no cameras on them, it's like they're against the people that they supposed to represent. They don't do nothing. Like you were saying, if Hakeem Jeffries can't get away from that 8-pack, who runs him, who he gets his agenda from, I mean, I just wish the people could just look at the Republicans and the Democrats are the same people. They do not represent us. They represent them wealthy individuals that they work for. You know, man, I've been listening to talk shows and stuff since the mid '70s up to now, and that's all we've been doing is just talking about it over and over and over, and ain't nothing changed. Everything has gotten worse. I mean, what is the end game, man?
Let me say this, I don't want you to I don't want you to sit back there and lose hope from all the talking that's been going on for a long time. We had ups and downs. The problem is that the ups and downs, every up has been a little less than the previous up, which means in effect, even as we go up and down, every time we get an up, the line is declining. You are absolutely right about that. So what needs to change is, I think people need to realize that they're more empowered than they are. And I think a lot of us are saying play the game differently. And that's what many of us are trying to put into people's minds. Play the game differently. And I tell you, Mandami is a canary in the mine, okay? And I think people don't understand what he really represents and this is not just Democrats, but simply progressives, for the working class, etc. I think a lot of folks are missing the point. I think there are those who have not missed the point, and the one who has not missed the point is Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries. They know what he represents, and that's why. And what he represents is the same thing that Plattner in Maine represents, and that's why Chuck Schumer is trying to stop Plattner as he becomes the Mandami of Maine. That's what's happening here, and that is something that we can mitigate. Support these people that are making a difference. And brother, let me tell you, the whole game is for us to lose hope. And what I'm saying is, you don't lose hope. You keep pushing forward.
No.
You never lose hope.
See, they want to, man, I admire the progressives that has came on the scene in the parties and stuff. But the people in the parties, they are against the progressives. They are so old school of what they've been used to doing. They've been there so long. They play the game the way that they're told to play it. The progressives have came in and exposed the game. So
yeah,
the Democrats, they talk against them. So if we don't wake up and man, I mean, get rid of those old Democrats that's off in there, we gonna be in the same predicament for a long time again.
Let me just say this, Spike. Let me just tell you, Spike. Let me just say this, right? And this is what I tell people: it's on us. We have a great progressive in our chat right now. This is a guy. I don't know if many of you know. I was actually a Bernie Sanders delegate in Philadelphia, out of Texas, and I can tell you that what a lot of this is going to take really is for us to actually get a job done. Glenn Ryan is the person I'm talking about in the chat right now. Glenn Ryan talks about how Democrats behave, etc., and he's right. But what has to happen is those who are progressives, and notice progressives, well, I'm not going to say that, but those who are progressive have to get the job done. You have to spend the time and the effort not to convince Democrats, but to convince people, because they're the ones that are going to elect people. But hey, my lines are full and I only have like 5 minutes, so I gotta go. Spike, we'll talk a little bit later, okay?
Thank you,
brother. Let's go to Tom. Come on in, Tom.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I'm preparing to go to the No Kings rally on October 18th. But I want to make a suggestion that the the title of the rally should be changed to the Love America rally, because if Republicans are claiming it's the Hate America rally, we should call it the Love America rally. And I've got a poster I'm working on, and it's called We the People, Love America, Land of the Free, Home of the Brave, with liberty and justice for all. And I think we need to stress the positive aspects of our country, so that even though it's called No Kings, let's make it something that people can rally around and make sure that we have a positive impact on our country and on our politicians.
This is Tom Zarnick, right? I recognize the. At first, I didn't get it. How you doing, Tom?
Great.
Hey, great one. That one wasn't a limerick, but it was good. And you know what? Talking about marketing, I think I love your idea. And I mean that. I love that idea. I'm out of time, Tom, but I got a whole bunch more calls to take. So let me just tell you this.
Right.
Let's talk about it at 3 o'clock and see how we can kind of maybe get some of the people using that phrase. Thank you, buddy.
Okay, great.
Let's go to Betty, line 2. Come on in, Betty.
Morning, Alberto.
How you doing, sis?
Summer has always been second banana. Never much to say or do. To Medicare Advantage is making the people live in pain by denial and put off. Makes them feel so washed out and so tired. They wait for the cows to come home, the same as Medicare Advantage. Good luck on that. Same song. To Bruce, cats love to take my chairs outside. I have to stand. Love y'all.
Love you. I love me some Betty. And you see, guys, Betty writes it down and she's ready to be tight and concise. Love you, sis. Let's go to Brother Tag. Come on in, Tag.
Hi, Berto. How you doing?
I'm doing fine, brother. Talk to me.
As far as our Democratic leadership goes,
yes, sir.
They remind me of guys that'll never come out of the foxhole. They sit in there once in a while. They run their helmet up on a stick to see if anybody's shooting at them.
Tag, did you decide to be a comedian this morning, my brother?
No, it's just a visual that I have, you know. But one thing I want to say about the young Republicans.
Yes.
You look at their policies that they espouse.
Yeah,
that's
actually,
a knockoff of like Putin or some of these other communist or former communist people. It's you can see that right from country to country who rules that way. And I don't know why those people don't understand that they're just knockoffs of some of these other authoritarians.
Yeah.
So with that, I'm going to go. Have a good day.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Tag. I was supposed to cover that stuff from the Politico article, but it's the link to it is in the newsletter. Donald, come on in, brother.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning. How you doing?
There's only one victim card in the deck, and somebody's been playing it for a very long time, but their actions do not reflect that of a victim, but of an oppressor.
Wow. First of all, let me first say, Brother Donald, that is profound. Now tell me, who is the oppressor?
Well, they have actually written some really good books, and you need to figure out which book you want to read. But remember, their book is the one that's supposed to be the truth. So we'll just have to keep digging a little deeper, but they control the money.
Amen. Good one, Donald. Good one as usual, my brother. Anything else you want to add before we go? All right, you too, brother. All right. Yes. Okay. Thank you very much, Donald. Anyway, welcome, Judy. Judy says Schumer and Jeffries have just signed their own resignations. Both will be primaried and beaten this year. New York, don't play. Again, I would lose no sleep over that. And Mary V says, I do like the Love America idea. Tom Zarnick, I think that was genius. I agree with that. Because when they then they can't call a rally, right? Because right now they don't even want to say the No Kings rally. But we take it better, the Love America rally. And, it is something that they probably should have thought of before, Tom. I'm serious about that. There are so many people on the left that should know some marketing. That is probably what the rally should have been called in the first place. Love America rally. That probably should have been it. Anyway, let me throw it to the studio before we close this baby down.
Hey, yeah, I want to thank Bruce for saying that I'm someone that he also learns from. That's awesome. Also, yeah, also, the woman you were talking about in the Times, the
Yes.
conservative. I mean, I think that they ran that story because she's a conservative who's saying this, and just like how you picked out that, like, kind of like the nerve of like, or I deserve this, but I feel like other people don't. Maybe, I mean,
Right.
that is the whole thing. Somebody like that even wants this, I
Right.
think that's a different way of seeing the whole story with the Medicaid.
You're absolutely right. I think you're absolutely right, my sis. I think you're absolutely right. All right, Jack,
Okay,
anything you
he's
got to
cool.
say? He's cool. All right. Anyway, let's close this baby down. Thank you for that, Mayana. Hey, folks, look, I'm going to be stressing this. Everybody who feels there's something wrong, I don't care if you're a Democrat, Republican, Independent, or whatever. If you're a good person, if you want good for this country, October 18th is for you. Go out there and mix with your brothers and sisters around. You're going to realize how much more in common you have than not. Go out there, peacefully engage, civilly talk, discuss. I tell you, it's a blessing that we can still do that. Let's make sure we will continue to have the ability to do that. Anyway, you can get the rest of the program at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter, politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. You can actually write me directly at kpft@politicsdoneright.com. Don, my mailbox has zoomed up to 5,000 emails. I still have to process, but I will get to it. Now, I love you all. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you know how I end this baby. I am what? Out.